And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Harrison Public Library's Dumpling Making Workshop with Yane Wang. We're delighted to have her here with us tonight. This program is being recorded and we will have it available on the Harrison Library's YouTube channel in a few days. So just give us a few days to get it edited and as needed. And a little bit about our instructor for tonight. We have Yane Wang, who began her culinary journey at a young age when she helped her grandma and mom make different kinds of dumplings, buns, and noodles with flour in China. Besides being a middle school teacher in New York City, Ms. Wang also has extensive experience in leading cooking classes and workshops of making Chinese food in a variety of venues. So please join me in welcoming Yane Wang.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, Giovanna. Thank you for having me tonight, everyone. It was a great pleasure to get to meet everyone. And also a great pleasure to get to share this yummy food that we get to make together tonight. I hope you all enjoy this session, and start from now on, you can learn to and try to make dumplings at home. Okay, I'm gonna start sharing my screen, and to start off, I would like to introduce you to a little bit information, background information about the dumplings. So we're gonna watch a very short video to learn something about the dumplings. Okay.
Chinese people like eating dumplings, 饺子, for their delicious taste and auspicious meanings. Jiaozi are made of meat and vegetable filling, enclosed in pastry shaped like a half moon. They are boiled in water and eaten with sauces like vinegar. There are hundreds of fillings with different flavors. The shape of jiaozi looks like the ancient currency of China called yuanbao. People eat dumplings on the Chinese New Year, wishing they will earn more money in the coming year.
Okay, that was a really short, quick video. So today, let's go through the procedures, the things that we're gonna go over today. First, we're gonna prepare our dough first. So starting from now on, we're gonna get our hands dirty because we need to rest our dough for 15 to 20 minutes so that we can get our skin prepared better. And also, while we're waiting for this dough to be rested, we're gonna go through some brief history about dumplings. If you have any question, you can also feel free to jump on to share any questions during that time also. And then we're gonna make our dumplings, cook dumplings, and also after the session, if you have any question, please feel free to unmute yourself by the end of the session, and we can share a little bit about your dumplings too. So the things that we will need today to make the dumplings, I believe Giovanna already shared with everyone. Let's just go through all of the things that we'll need. We're gonna need a rolling pin to make the dumpling skin, a cutter, a mixing bowl, it can be any kind. Another bowl with a prepared filling, I believe everyone has it already. And also we're gonna need a pot to cook our dumplings. And we also need a cup. It doesn't have to be a measuring cup. It can be just be a regular cup that you can put to the flour in. You can use it to put the water in just to measure. And of course, when we need the flour and also some other things we can use is a little bit salt, a little bit of a sesame oil. If you are making the fillings, you can use a little bit sesame oil when you're making the fillings. But today in our session, we will not be using sesame oil at all. Okay, so first of all, let me go over the steps for making the dough. As you can see on the picture, when we make the dough, we need to put the flour and mix with water. The ratio of the water with the flour would be 1 to 3. That means if you're putting 3 cups of flour in, then you might only need 1 cup of water. But also I would suggest everyone to put in the water slowly. You can also put a little tiny bit of salt in it. This will make your dumpling skin more stretchy, which will be more tasty when you eat it. So, and then we're gonna use some mixer or chopstick to mix the flour and the water together until we have our dough into a bigger chunk. And then we're gonna put it aside to rest our dough. Okay, now I'm gonna transfer into my kitchen section and we're gonna start making our dough. Before we move in, does anyone have any questions so far?
Sapna has a question. How many dumplings will 1 cup of flour make?
That's a really good question. It also depends on how big your dumpling skin is. I would say 1 cup, you can make at least 7 to 10 dumplings. Any other question?
Just thanks
Okay.
from Sapna. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let's make our dumplings.
Is it just regular all-purpose flour?
Yes.
Okay.
I use a regular all-purpose flour.
And is the temperature of the water just like from the sink?
Yes,
warm?
regular cold water is fine. You don't need to use a hot water, just a regular cold water is fine. Okay.
Should we stop sharing your screen or we'll keep? Oh,
yes.
there we go. Okay.
I was just about to do that.
Thank you.
So here we go. Can everyone see my screen but well? Okay, as you can see, I have the flour in it. And then you can put some water into the cup. I'm just using a regular cup. And then you can use chopstick or mixer and put the water. When you are putting the water in, you want to put the water in the middle of the dough while you are mixing them. So we're going to put in the water slowly while you mix them together. You want to also stir them into one direction, just following clockwise direction. Remember the ratio of the water and the flour is 1 to 3. So usually this is the regular ratio that we can use. But if you think that your flour is still not wet, it's still hard to knead together, you can put a little bit more water at a time and try to put them together. So I'm gonna keep mixing them and I keep adding water in it. As you can see in my bowl here, I have the little doughs coming out, or scrambles. If you think that it is still too dry, you can put a tiny little bit of water in it, just a little bit of time so that you don't get too much water, that your dough gets too sticky, or you also don't want to get your dough too dry or too hard. As for now, I'm gonna stop mixing with the chopstick, and I'll be using my hand to knead the flours together. Make sure to keep your hands clean. And then now you can knead all of the doughs together, the flours together. Just press them down and mix them together. As you can see, my dough is a little bit dry and there's still some flour sticking around and it's not sticking to my dough. That means my dough is still a little bit dry. So I'm gonna put a little bit water in it. Again, then getting the rest of the dough together. When your dough is basically together as one bigger chunk, you want to keep kneading it to make it dry outside, and also make sure that the flour and the water is mixing well. Interesting. I have just reminded everyone to put less water in it, and myself put a little bit too much water. And now it makes my dough a little bit too wet, and it's still getting too sweet, too sticky. Don't worry. So if it gets too sticky, you can put a little bit of flour in it. Now will be perfect. And now we're kneading them together as a big dough. And then will be the time that we can rest our dough.
There's a question.
So
Can you use whole wheat flour instead of regular flour?
Yes, I believe you can. I myself have been using whole purpose flour for most of the time. So this is my dough so far. It's not too sticky, as you can see. I can play it around. So this is my dough so far. If it still feels a little bit sticky, don't worry. You can still get some flour to spread around your dough so it doesn't stick to your hand. And now we have a decent amount of dough. We're gonna rest the dough. To rest the dough, there are different ways, and the different ways all works out. The easy way that you can do, you can put your dough in a plate and get something to cover it up. So I'm putting the dough on a plate, And then I'm putting a bowl on top of the dough, on top of the plate. Make sure it's not touching the dough though. And then I'm gonna leave it there to have it being rested. Or you can do it another way. You can put it in your bowl and put your plate on top. Either way works out. So now we can rest our dough, just to put it aside. Okay, as of for now, we're pretty done with the first part, making the dough. How's everyone doing?
Looks good.
Does anyone have any questions so far?
I don't see any in the chat, but if anyone would like to unmute and ask that question, you're welcome to do that as well. If anyone's cooking along with Yang Yang, you're welcome to show us your progress as well.
Yes. We do have people are cooking with me, right? Or everyone's watching me only.
I thought we had, well, at least one person. Ah, Sapna showing us her dough. Looks nice. Very nice.
That looks great.
I don't see
Okay,
anyone
so
else.
we can rest our dough here. We're cooking along. Awesome. Okay, let me show you my filling first. So the filling that I have, as Giovanna said, yes, we can do the vegetarian one also. You can use cabbage only. You can use chives only. Mine's chives, or you can use the celery only. You can use different kinds of vegetables if you're looking for vegetarian dumplings. Some people would also use some mushrooms in it. The key thing is that when everything you wanted to use, you want to chop them into small little pieces as your fillings and then put it in the seasoning. That would be good enough.
There is another question.
Yes.
Can you use a stand mixer or do you have to knead by hand?
You can use a stand mixer as long as you're making them into a dough.
Oh, I don't see you anymore. I don't know. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Awesome. Do you cook the filling beforehand? I made a tofu and a cabbage filling. For that one, you don't need to cook it beforehand. If you want to do chives with eggs, there's another way. I believe I put in the recipe also that you can do chives with eggs. And for the eggs, you have to pre-cook it. And then you can mix it with the chives together. But for most of the things, you don't need to pre-cook it. You can just cut them into small pieces and then mix them together. Okay. Why? Okay, I think I answered most of the questions, right?
Yes.
If you have any question, awesome, thank you. If you have any question, feel free to stop me anytime, or you can unmute yourself and just to say to the camera, that's fine. That's fine with me. I can be interrupted anytime. Okay, let's look at our dumplings. So there are several steps that we will be going through to make the dumplings. Let me show you the steps, detailed steps, a little bit more. All right, as you can see, to make the dumplings, there are a few steps. Number one, we're gonna make the dough, which we already did. And then number two, we're gonna make the fillings for the dumplings. For most of the cases, for people who are making dumplings, they would make the dough first, and as they are resting the dough, then they would prepare the fillings for the dumplings. But I would suggest to everyone, if you're making any fillings for the dumplings, try to use the fresh ones. It tastes way much better. Okay, then we can make the dumpling wrappers. during that time, we'll be using a rolling pin, which is something that we will move into really, really shortly. And then we're gonna make the dumplings using the wrappers that we have made. And then we're gonna cook the dumplings. Okay, so while we're waiting, there's something that I can share with you is a brief history about the dumplings. Okay, so why Chinese people started eating dumplings? Actually, this started with a story, a very short story, starting from a long time ago. There is a doctor, his name is called Zhang Zhongjing. So it was said that he actually invented the jiaozi dumplings to cure people, because during that time, a lot of people, they were suffering from the sickness, and then they created this kind of dumplings, and they put all of the medicine in that dumpling, which they call it as tender ears, to treat the people who are suffering from frostbitten ears. So when they cook the dumplings on the street, which has the medicine in it, by that time they call them as jiao er, tender ears. People come to eat it, and then they will be cured. And then it started from then on, people start to use different fillings in it and change into current dumplings that we're eating. Another thing, when do Chinese people eat dumplings? Well, most people might would say, oh, Chinese New Year. Yes, Chinese New Year, that's definitely one of the things that people would eat dumplings. I myself was originally from China, and I was from northern part of China. And when I was little, there are all different kinds of occasions that we would have to eat dumplings, jiaozi. And the three of the major occasions would be, number one, of course, it's Lunar New Year, Spring Festival. And number two, we would eat jiaozi dumplings when we're sending off our family members away or our friends away. So in Chinese, there's a saying that when your friends is coming or your families is coming to see you, especially for the reunion family members that they came back from far away, then we would cook noodles for that person. And to sending that person away, we would make dumplings to wish that person a good luck. Another occasion that we would eat dumplings is it's called the winter solstice. What is this? Actually, this is the 12 solar systems that we have been using in China, using the lunar calendar. So as you can see, there are 24 different periods according to the lunar calendar. And when it comes to Dongzhi, when it's winter time, that means Dongzhi itself officially means the winter has arrived. So during that time, people would make dumplings to celebrate. Of course, during Lunar New Year, people would also eat dumplings, especially in the northern part of China. And as Giovanna has said, when I was little, starting from 3 or 4 years old, I would always buy my parents' side, my grandma's house, to help them to make the dumplings together. So the reason why people are eating dumplings during Lunar New Year, a lot of people might know also that for most of the things that people eat during Lunar New Year, it all has different kinds of meanings behind it. Same as dumplings. The reason why we're eating dumplings is because the shapes of dumplings are made to look like the ancient Chinese money, which we call it as yuanbao. So if you compare the pictures, you will see that the ancient Chinese money, the currency over here on the left, looks like the shape of the dumplings. So there's a lucky saying called 招财进宝, which means the more dumplings that you're eating, the more money you're making the next year. Okay, so we haven't made the dumplings already. Now, let's prepare some water as we're preparing the wrapper, making the dumplings. Then we'll be able to cook our dumplings right away. So let's prepare a pot. And please put at least a half a pot of water in it. And then we're gonna bring to boil. So let's start boil our water now. And I'm gonna move my section back to the kitchen area to show everyone how to make the dumpling wrappers.
Any questions? No?
No questions?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, great. Seems that I did a really good job explaining. All right, so let's look at how we can make the dumpling wrappers. Again, I will go through
I think we
Sorry,
lost you.
guys.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry, I got a phone coming in. Sorry about that. So can everyone hear me well now?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Awesome. So as for now, we're gonna make the dumplings. And let's go over the procedures of making the dumpling wrapper first. And then afterwards, I'll show everyone how to make the wrappers. So as you can see, when you want to make the dumpling wrappers, first you need to knead the dough and then make it into a loop as a step one. Afterwards, you can cut it open and then cut into small little pieces as in step two. After that, you can pat it, make it into a round shape and pat it more flat. And then number four, you're gonna roll it to make it into smaller pieces. As the dumpling wrapper, there are different ways of rolling it. So in the bottom three pictures, there are three different ways of making the dumpling wrapper. Number four, this one has a number on it. This is the most advanced and most common way that people would make one. If you are new to this, you can use both of your hands to make the dumpling wrapper looking like this. Or there's another way that you can make a big skin and then use a cup to cut it out. But when you're making the dumpling wrappers, there's something that I want to share with you is that when you're making the dumpling wrappers, try to make the middle part of your wrapper a little bit thicker than the edges, because the bottom part will be holding the whole weight of this whole filling. So you want to make sure the bottom part is a tiny thicker than the rest of the part. Okay. As of for now, let's take out our cutting board and take out our pre-rested dough. My dough is pretty big so far, so I'm only gonna take a half of it first. So I'm gonna cut into half and take a half them. And then let me stop sharing my screen so you can see it better. The rest of the part, I'm gonna put it back into the plate to keep it resting it. And now I'm having this part over here. So you can still knead it a little bit if you want to make it more smooth. The perfect way of feeling to know that if your dough is ready or not, you can see the skin of your dough is very, very smooth. That means your dough is pretty ready. As for now, we're gonna make it into a hoop. start making into a hoop, and then like a donut, then you're gonna even it out. Try to make it a little bit bigger and thinner, as this. Now it's get bigger and bigger, my donut. And then you can cut it open. So now you have this long dough over here, but it's still not even. So you want to roll it a little bit to make it as even as possible. This basically decides how big your dumpling is. So if you want to make a small dumplings, you want to make it thinner. If you want to make a big dumplings, which is going to take a little bit longer time to cook though, then you can keep it thick. The size I'm making is just like a medium size of dumplings. So as for now, I'm pretty done. As you can see, this is my dough so far, and I'll be cutting it. And this, for my dough, it's a little bit bigger than my thumb, like a double size of my thumb. So this is my dough. And then you will be cutting it into smaller pieces. So for that, before cutting it, you want to spread some flour by the sides of the dough, so that as you cutting it, the dough does not stick to your cutting board. And then you can use your cutter, your knife, to cut it in evenly. Each size, try to make them even. So this is the size that I am cutting out. This is like this size. So when you get some flour, press it down, select this size. So this is more like a small to medium size of dough. Try to cut them evenly so that all of your wrappers are the similar size. As you cutting it, my regular way of cutting it is I'm gonna cut this way, and then I'm gonna roll the dough about 90 degrees and then cut so that my dough looks like this. But that really doesn't matter. You can keep cutting like this, keep it flat, just come out this way. Anyways, you're gonna fix the shape a little bit later and pat it down. Okay, so I have a 10. Usually, if you are fast enough to make the dumplings, you can cut all of them. But if you think you cannot finish that fast, or you want to try your fillings to see if it's good enough, then you can just do half them, leave the half the part aside. As for now, you won't need your knife anymore. You want to put it away. So over here, you have all of your cutted little dough here. And as for now, you want to spread the flour over it so it does not stick to your cutting board. So make sure every side of this little dough has a flour on top. Now I have all of the doughs have the flours, and I would like to prepare a little bit better, just to have a better shape of the dumpling skin, is that you're gonna fix this little dough into a round shape, and then press it down with your palm. After you press it down, it will be a perfect little shape of the round shape, right? So let's press down a little bit, a few of them. Make it into a round shape, and then press it down. You don't have to put it on your hands. You can just do it on your cutting board. Press down. Or if you want to do two hands together, press down. If it sticks to your hands, doesn't matter. That just means you need to put more flour on it. So you can just put a little bit more flour on it. Okay, press down. So now we have this amount of the prepared smaller shape, the round shape of the dough. And now we're gonna make the wrapper. So I'm gonna invite everyone to grab your rolling pin now. Please make sure you have your rolling pin in your hand now. This is my rolling pin. And also you wanna prepare some flour aside so that when you're rolling the skin, when it gets sticky, just to get some flour on it. First, I'm gonna demonstrate to everyone how to make the wrapper. So the way that I'm making the wrapper is, I would press down, turn about 90 degrees to this way, and then press down, and then lift it up another 90 degrees, press down, and then lift it up another 90 degrees. It doesn't have to be strict 90 degrees or 60 degrees. You can just switching it around. Make sure that your rolling pin is rolling all of the edges. So when you are rolling on it, you want to put some pressure on your rolling pin, but not too hard. So you're rolling down. But as I said, if you remember, you want to keep the middle part, the center of the wrapper a little bit thicker. So you don't want to go all the way down. So you want to put more pressure on the edges. When you get to the middle, just lift your hands up, not too much pressure. So in this case, you will be making a wrapper, thin edges, a little bit thick in the middle part, and then you get your wrappers. Okay. Now I'm gonna show you the way of using two hands to do it. So you have this wrapper over here. You can put over here with both of your hands, roll it down just all the way to the middle, and then roll it, switch around to 90 degrees, roll it to the middle, then switch around another edge, roll it, and then roll it. So as you keep rolling down, you will make your wrapper a little bit bigger and bigger. When it starts to stick to your rolling pin or your cutting board, you can just dip a little bit flour or spread a little bit flour on it, and then keep rolling it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let me show you the edge of my wrapper. This is the edge of my wrapper. You can keep it a little bit thicker if you're not really sure. Just make sure that it will not break when you're making when you're cooking your dumplings. It can be a little bit thicker, that's fine. Okay, so this thickness of my wrapper is like the thickness of a dime. As of for now, you have your wrappers. I have made 2, and you can use the same way to keep making your wrappers. Rolling, turn around, roll it, turn around, roll it to the half, only to the half, and then switch it, and then roll it. So you can keep rolling around and twist around to have the perfect round shape of the dumpling skin. For the ones who are cooking along, how you guys are doing here?
There's Sapna's, very nice. Very nice. Anyone else want to share? And Joseph has his thumbs up.
Awesome. I'm well trained since the early age. I said I started from like 3 or 4 years old. So the way that I'm rolling the skin is a little bit faster. So the fast way that you can do it like this, but it takes years of practice. So roll it, twist it around and then roll it. Then twist the skin around, roll it, twist around and roll it. Okay, my water is boiled. How about everyone else's water? If your water is boiled, you can keep the water boiled into a smaller thing. And
There's a
then,
question
yes,
in the chat. The wrappers appear to be about 2 inches in diameter. Is that correct?
2 inches diameters. Does it look like 2 inches to you? I'm not really good with inches, honestly, but it looks like this. Yes.
But the diameter, like how from one end of the edge of the circle to the other end. How about
Oh, this one. So this one is really depending on how, it doesn't matter about the size of your dumpling wrapper, it's more about the thickness of your wrapper. If you are keeping this thickness, if you have the dough a little bit bigger, you might have the wrapper a little bit bigger than mine. But if you have it a little bit smaller, you might have a smaller wrapper than mine. As long as it's in a decent thickness, then that would be good. For the diameter, it's really depending on how big your dough is. If you have the same size of the dough as mine, then that would be good enough. Do we have any other questions? Giovanna, would you mind helping me to look into the question?
Sure,
I think
definitely.
there's another question.
The question just came up from Sapna. How many should we make before starting to boil them?
Well, I would say we can start trying to make them now. For now, I have 7 wrappers. I don't know how many you guys made so far. How about let's make some dumplings so you can taste your filling. And if it's too salty, you might can add a little bit more vegetables in it. Okay? Let's do our dumplings here. So to make the dumplings, first, you want to put the wrapper on top of your hand. And then you want to take the filling and put it in the center of your wrapper. But make sure you leave edges, leave a space around the wrapper so that when you wanted to pinch them together, you have a space to pinch them together, right? So as you put them together, you can pinch the side together carefully. As you can see now, all of my sides have been pinched together. If you want to do the easy way of keeping your dumplings look like this, I would suggest you to pinch a little bit harder, like this. So that the edges of this dumpling is closely sealed, like this. Okay, so this is how the dumplings can look like. If you would like to do a fancier way, then you can seal the edges first. I'm gonna show you another way of seal the dumpling. So you still are gonna put the filling in the middle, seal it, pinch them together lightly, pinch them together lightly. And then you want to hold, this one, okay. You wanna hold the top of the edges with the 2 of your fingers, and then the other side also 2 of your fingers. So all of your dumplings are lying on all of your fingers together. And then you're gonna squeeze it a little bit. When you squeeze in, actually, over here, you don't need to put any pressure in the bottom. You're just squeezing the very top part, the top edges of this dumpling. So in the bottom part, you don't squeeze the belly or this part of the dumpling at all. You're just squeezing the top to make a better shape of the dumplings. So in that case, after you're done, your dumpling looks more like an edgy one, the ones that you get from outside. So this is how you can make a better looking of dumpling comparing to a plain looking of dumplings. But at the end of the day, they taste the same. Okay, so now you can try to make some dumplings by yourself. Try not to put too much filling in it. This is especially if this is your first time trying to make the dumplings. Try not to put too much filling in it so that you have enough space. Pinch it from the top first and then do the edges. If the filling is a little bit too much that you cannot close the edge, so you can use your finger to press down the filling a little bit and then pinch it. There we go. As I said, if you want to keep the plain sides of the dumpling, you want to pinch it a little bit harder. Now I'm pinching and sealing the sides, the edges. My filling is made of. My filling, the fillings that I'm using today is chives. I have chives. I have a beef, and I also put some shrimp in it. That's mine. Okay. So this is the. Yes.
Is it cooked or raw? Is also
it's raw.
Raw, okay.
It's all raw, everything's raw. Now this is my fourth dumpling. Still, the fourth one, I'm gonna use this, I'm gonna show people the fancier way of making it. So you're gonna just to seal the edges gently. The other side, seal the edges gently. If it gets too much that you cannot seal the edges, you can press it down a little bit. Now my edges are being sealed. Then you can use two of your fingers, hold one side, the other two, hold this part, and then squeeze the top, not the body of your dumpling. And then when you open your hands, you get a wavy shape of your dumpling. Do we have any questions? How's everyone doing so far?
No questions right now, but if anyone wants to unmute and ask a question, you can do that.
Or if you would like to share your camera to show us your process, you're also welcome to do that. If you would like to keep your hands clean, you can also use your chopstick or your fork or your spoon to press in the fillings and then squeeze them together. I have 5 dumplings. What is the best way to wrap it if we want what? Giovanna, would you mind to help me read?
Sure. What is the best way? No problem. What is the best way to wrap it if we want to pan fry the dumplings?
Oh, that's fine. You can use it either way. Do you know how to pan fry them though?
So
The best way I would say would be this way, using 2 hands so that they can stand up in your pan this way. So that you have a round belly of your dumpling like this, and they can stand still. If you are making this way, but you can have it stand in your pan, that also works. Or if it's a flat, that's even also fine because you can do both sides of a pan frying.
And another question, should you roll out all first and then fill all and then boil them, or do some at a time?
I would suggest for the people who started anew, do some first and then do the little by little for the rest of the part. For people who are proficient in this, they would finish doing all of this, or there are at least 2 people are making them together. It is always best if you do it fresh, because if you keep the flour, if you keep the dough outside for a little bit longer, the skin will not be that smooth anymore. It might get dried out. So it's better if you have the fresh rolling out the skin and to do the dumplings. Okay. Now we have the dumplings here. I have 7 of the dumplings, and I would like to show everyone how to cook the dumplings. It takes a few steps to cook the dumplings also. Everyone has the boiled water, right? How many dumplings we have so far? Alice, you can try and taste. Okay, let me switch my camera so you can look into my pot.
And Sapna showing us her lovely dumplings there on her platter.
Thank you for
Very
sharing.
impressive.
Awesome. Okay, let me switch my camera. Okay, as you can see here, I have my water boiled. Now I'll be putting my dumplings into the pot. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you're putting your dumplings in, and try not to put them one on top of each other. Lay them out as 1 layer, then you can do another layer if you have more than that. If you're afraid that they would stick together to the bottom of your pot, you can use some of the container or anything. Just gently move them a little bit from the bottom. Okay, move them a little bit so that now you can see they're floating inside of your pot. And then we're gonna put the lid back on and bring to boil. To cook the dumpling, the best way is that you need to keep adding on cold water in it. When it's boiled 1 time, you're gonna take about half or 1/3 cup of water, cold water, adding into this boiled pot, and let it boil again. Then you're gonna add another 1/3 or half cup of cold water into this pot to have it boil again. Why we're doing that is because we're using the cold water to make sure all of the dumplings are cooked evenly, and you don't want to keep having hot water in there because also the wrappers might be broke. So you want to keep adding on some cold water once it is being fully boiled. I'll show you how it will look like when it's fully boiled. In the meantime, I'm gonna put some cold water in my cup. As you can see here, I have a giant pot over here. And I only have 7 dumplings. So the water I'm putting just 1/3 cup of the water. But if you, let's say if you have like 20 dumplings in the pot or 30 dumplings in the pot, then you might want to put at least a 1/2 cup of the water to bring to boil again. Okay, let me show you how my pot looks like now. As you can see now, my dumplings are all floating. So this is gonna be the first time I'm adding cold water, and I'm adding 1/3 of cold water in it. And then I'm gonna put the lid back on to let it boil again. After it's fully boiled again, I'm gonna add another 1/3 of the water in it to have it boil again. How would you know your dumplings is fully cooked? Usually if you have meat, as for me, I have the beef, right? That's raw meat. You're gonna need to add at least 2 to 3 times of cold water to have it fully cooked and boiled. And when you see your dumplings are all floating on top of your water and their bellies are all pumped up like little balls, that means they're being fully cooked. So now I'm gonna add in the second time of the cold water in it. And have it boil again. For my dumplings, it's not that big. And also I only have 7 dumplings in this giant pot. So after this 2 times, when it's boiled again, my dumplings will be ready to serve. Okay, how about everyone else? How's your dumpling so far? Is it pre-cooked or veggie only? Do I cook it for less time? Yes. If you have like a decent size of your dumpling, then you can just cook it for 1 or 2 times for the veggie or pre-cooked one. If you have a pre-cooked one, just 1 time should be good enough. If you have like decent size of your dumpling, like this size, right? But if your dumplings are a little bit bigger or you have a thicker skin, you want to make sure that the skin is fully cooked too. So you can add on 1 time of cold water and bring to boil again. So that would be 1 or 2 times of cold water.
So if someone wants to pan fry them instead of boiling them, would they just fry it in a certain type of oil? Would it be sesame oil, or how would they do that?
Oh, pan fry. Okay, so to pan fry, I wouldn't be able to show you now today, but you're gonna put it in and use the regular oil that you use, like a corn oil or vegetable oil, not a sesame oil. The sesame oil is only for you to, when you are making the fillings, for some of the fillings, you can use the sesame oil. But if you're cooking it, just cook it as the regular stuff, how you would cook or boil other dumplings or other things. Use the regular oil is fine. Do we have any other questions? Okay, let me show you my fully cooked dumplings here. As you can see, they are all floating here. And also the dumplings or the skin of the dumplings are pumped up. That means they are ready to serve and they are fully cooked. And now you can have your plate ready. And you can fish them out. I'm using this one. So this is the one that I use to get my spaghettis, but this also works for the dumplings. So you can use this one to get the dumplings out, like a drainer or anything. So you can get your dumplings, lay on your plate, and then they will be ready to serve. This is a more like an American style using this drainer. And for more Asian style, there's another bigger drainer. Let me show you really quick. Here's the one. A bigger drainer that you can take more dumplings at a time. So either one works out for you. For the dumplings, when you want to eat it, you can eat it with some people will like to use vinegar or soy sauce. You can make your own sauce. If you like spicy food, you can also put some hot sauce in it too to have your dumplings. There's mine. Okay, everyone. This is pretty much of it. I hope you all enjoy it.
Yeah, this was great. I mean, I wasn't able to cook along with you, but I definitely will try this because my family loves dumplings. So, to cook the rest, do I add cold water or can I reuse the water?
You can reuse the water.
Okay. Any other questions before we?
Same water. How many should we make before starting boil them? Could you tell us what is the what is the best way?
Thank you.
You look fantastic. Can't wait to do it. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And
thank you so much.
The recipe is on the website. Oh, there's a question. Can you freeze them?
Yes, I did this yesterday. So put it in the freezer right away. If you don't want to eat it now, put in your freezer. Don't wait, because after a little bit while, you're gonna stick to your cutting board or anywhere. So you can put it in your freezer and right away, and then take it out whenever you want to eat it.
Excellent, excellent.
And I'll cook it the same way. Remember, after you bring the water to the boil, you wanted to add on at least 2 times of a cold water in it to have the perfect dumpling.
Very nice.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.